Locker Room on Smooth 98.117 minutes past 8 a.m. This edition of the Locker Room is brought to you by Dano Milk. As always, it's Tega, Omas, and Zibby.
No, it's Omas, Zibby, and Tega. Last person. Yes, they didn't put me inside camera. I just want to report people. I'm here, but they didn't put me inside camera.
Tega is rebelling. She says, I don't want to be on camera today.
Today, I must report people to the neighborhood. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend, a better weekend than Tommy Paul's girlfriend, because my goodness. But what's happening in the world of sports? Let's talk about the Euros. So far, so good at the Copa America, but not a lot of drama there to talk about yet, apart from the fact that the US men's team played an impressive game of football yesterday, but they beat Bolivia. I think everybody should be able to beat Bolivia by now, as long as you're not playing them at home. So,
including Super Eagles,
not including Super Eagles. If Super Eagles cannot beat Bolivia, let's disband the team. That's it. All right. So on that note, we have all of that to talk about in the locker room and more. But before we do any more talking, Zibby, how can we be a part of the locker room this morning? Lady in red with lipstick.
I almost always have red lipstick. All right. Well, you can tweet at Smooth981 or send a message via WhatsApp 0809 4440981. And we're also streaming live on our YouTube channel. It's Smooth981, so you can catch the live stream. You can post a comment on there. For some reason, Tega seems to love YouTube, and you can see Tega's fingers waving hello right there.
Yeah. All right. So send your messages to WhatsApp and YouTube. Omas, just tell us what the headlines are this morning.
On the bill this morning, CAF announced new dates for the 2025 AFCON in Morocco, as Nori's happy with 99% of things, but needs extra 1% to beat Verstappen. And then Pegula saves 5 championship points to win Berlin Open, as last gap Fulcrum goal rescues top spot for Euro host Germany, as Southgate still the right coach for England despite Euro 2024 struggles. Kane is talking, and Hungary dedicates Euro 2024 win to stricken Vaga after terrible injury, as Kovacic admits Croatia midfield struggles before a key Italy clash, as Spain still a long way from matching predecessors at Euro 2024.
Yes, very long way. I'm glad somebody else admitting it. But let's start with what CAF is doing with I don't want to say women's football before it looks like I'm taking them out. Let's just start with what they're doing with African football.
Now, the next Africa Cup of Nations will be played in Morocco from December 21st, 2025 to January 18th, 2026. And this is according to CAF President Patrice Motsepe.
All right. So he finally had to address the situation. So here's where the problem with CAF is. CAF is not really run by the Confederation of African Football. It's not really run by them. They're still under the auspices of FIFA because of the earlier mismanagement. Yes, Africa just doesn't find a way to grow. And so here's all the problems. There's a football calendar, and you have to put your tournaments in the football calendar. But again, CAF doesn't have its own standing. I mean, think about it. Copa America, 10 countries. They are not the richest 10 countries in the world. Find a way every year to play Copa America. At least in the last 6 or so years, they found a way every year to play Copa America. That means they found a way every year to put Copa America in the calendar. CAF is struggling. And I don't know if it's a case of CAF's incompetence, a case of FIFA's negligence, or a combination of both, because two truths can exist. And so here is the struggle. So everybody knows that the African Cup of Nations is supposed to hold in Morocco next year, but there were concerns about should it hold in January as usual, should it hold in June. Anyway, CAF has somehow found a way, and they've moved it now to December. So the African Cup of Nations will be in December, and then it will flow into January. Now, some European countries will be happy. EPL wouldn't. because you know they still play during Christmas and New Year. Ultimately, they found a way to fit the African Cup of Nations to suit other people, because you know you can play the African Cup of Nations in December in Morocco, but you can't play it everywhere else in Africa. So let's see how it works out for them. They now also managed to fit the Women's African Cup of Nations that should have happened this year for June next year. So it took them a long while, and I had to ask. If you follow me on social media, I was asking every 2 market days, when are we playing this AFCON? Because we knew in 2022 again that we're going to play the next AFCON in 2024. How do you not put that in the calendar? Like I said, somehow Copa America finds a way in the calendar to just put their tournament, but CAF is not doing well. So Patrice Motsepe can say, "Oh, we increased the number of amount of profit that we made at the African Cup of Nations this year," but organizationally, CAF is still very poor. And as much as I want to blame FIFA for negligence, but there's a limit to how FIFA, disregards Europe or CONCACAF. In fact, they don't. But they found a way to disregard Africa. And it's not just, you can't allude that to racism. You have to allude that to some of the incompetence that Africa has shown when it comes to organizing their own football. So ultimately, Patrice Motsepe, well done for at least getting us on the calendar, and at least be ashamed of your poor organization.
Anyway, Tega, before we drift onto the tracks this morning, there's a special request from Canada. Someone, Baraka Agrovert, is saying, "I can't believe I'm hearing Tega live on YouTube from Canada. And why are you not showing?" So for good measure, you would just probably just want to...
They didn't put camera on me.
Tega, could you just... So, yes, so that's a special request. Okay.
Okay. Yes,
Okay,
I'm
let's take
showing.
that out. So let's pick up the next story now, Tega, and that's it's Lando Norris, who still has hopes of challenging Max Verstappen for the Formula One title this year, despite losing out to the Red Bull driver in a Grand Prix it felt he should have won for a second consecutive time.
Yeah, nearly there. In fact, that's what the McLaren and Lando Norris have become. We are almost there. We are just 1% away. Because last weekend it was the same thing. Sorry, not last weekend. Last race it was the same thing, and this race it was almost the same thing. They have the pace to kind of like get close, but not enough pace to overtake the Red Bull. And I don't know what McLaren is doing. That Mercedes is not, because Mercedes is the owner of the engine, but McLaren is utilizing it the more. Mercedes is beginning to look like the CAF that we were talking about earlier on. But brilliant run by McLaren, and brilliant organization. I don't know what they're doing in their factory, but they're doing it so well. And they're getting Lando Norris ever so close to the Red Bull. So next season may turn out to be a little interesting, apart from the fact that there'll be another engine change which may suit one constructor better than the other. But he's really running close. It was a brilliant weekend. From practice session, you could see that there were multiple constructors, kind of dominating the practice session. So we all knew that come the race day, it was equally going to be interesting. And it was interesting, at the start of the race, the way everybody pulled off. And then some people stalled. So Max Verstappen in 1, Lando Norris in 2, Hamilton in 3, which meant Hamilton was behind Verstappen, and then Russell in 4. But when they started the race, it was like George Russell, his car grew wings, and he flew over everybody else, and he got himself into second. So of course he had that fight with Lando Norris, and then also had the fight with Lewis Hamilton. Eventually, at the end of the race, it still ended up being Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton. Like Max Verstappen is like, regardless of how well you drive, I'm still going to be best. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that Red Bull. It looks like they're running away with the championship because of Max Verstappen. But let's see if Lando Norris and McLaren can eventually get their car that close enough to overtake him.
All right, Jessica Pegula saved 5 championship points as she beat Anna Kalinskaya to win the Berlin Open and confirm her status as a Wimbledon title contender.
Oh yes, so Pegula hadn't had a great season, and then she started struggling with injuries, which is one of the reasons why, if you haven't seen her, you saw what's her name, Coco Gauff winning the French Open with Siniakova, a completely different doubles partner, because Jessie Pegula had been struggling with injuries, and so she hadn't been able to play in a lot of tournaments or compete at the doubles like she would have loved to. So when she came back this time around, it was really just to test how well her body was going to be able to withstand the rigors of a tournament. And boy, did she test that body. And she tested it against the weather and against her doubles partner in Coco Gauff, and she was able to survive that. Then came back hours later to play Kalinskaya in the final. And then Kalinskaya was this close. I think Kalinskaya's lack of experience is what got to her, because she served for the match, but she got nervous. And people take it for granted that, oh, you've been playing tennis all your life, why are you nervous? No, when you're serving for a big point, even when you're going for a big presentation as a regular person, there's always those nerves. And sometimes the people on the other side of the net can read your body language and just test you a little bit. So Kalinskaya, she stumbled, or she blinked, I would say, because it was a stare-down contest, and she blinked, and Jessica Pegula was able to win that one. So in Berlin, Jessica Pegula dominated in Halle with the men. Yannick Sinner also, yes, confirmed #1.
There's something to take home.
Yeah, #1. Boyfriend and girlfriend can't take home. That's why you should be like Bolta and her boyfriend. They've won titles back to back. That's a solid relationship. The jury is still out on Yannick Sinner and Kalinskaya. If you can't win together, why are you together? Okay, together spoil that relationship you just started. But yeah, he won in Halle. But the one that is making all the waves is Tommy Paul winning a championship. Tommy Paul won his championship. Now, like every normal human being, he will win, he will carry trophy, he will go away. His girlfriend came from nowhere and started rubbing his head and rubbing the back of his neck. We're like, Auntie, where have you seen this happen before? She said, oh, I'm starting a new trend. She just took over the boys' win. So instead of us now to be celebrating Tommy Paul winning a championship, we are wondering where this girl came from. Apparently, she's also known to have dated a couple of other popular people and found her way to stealing the limelight. So she's a groupie girlfriend.
Is that also the marking the territory?
Which dirty territory is that one? What kind of who is struggling with her? She should carry and go. I mean, it's just not even proper. You know how usually the family will stay in the box and mind their business. She said, no, you cannot restrict me. I must show the world who I am.
You won't know the amount of
and she stepped into the limelight. She's just an attention seeker. And Tommy Paul had better do away with that before his career is destroyed. Because it's that kind of distraction that will make you not to be in top 10 for long.
You're supporting women all for this.
I'm supporting her to be better. On that note, next story. Or should we go on a break? What are you talking about? She came up. Rather. Who sends her?
The joy of celebrating the whole thing together.
How many? Which girl have you seen coming up?
Somebody should start it.
No, nobody should start it. They should keep that nonsense to themselves.
After all,
she came up and was rubbing his head like the side chick that she is. We'll give him rewind.
Kalinskaya won again, going to the final. She was asked, have you seen your phone? Have you checked your phone?
Yes, they asked those questions.
Yeah, no.
Those are normal. Even when Yannick Sinner won, he was like, oh, my girlfriend lost. And he found out on court. Like, as soon as he won, he checked her match. Because her match finished just a few minutes before his match. So he checked his match and then he said, oh, he's so sad, but she had a great week. Why are you coming over the place and slithering like a snake all over his body? This is how Eve lost her position in the earth, because snake was slithering. This girl.
Well, that was massive support.
No, that was unnecessary attention hogging. She should go and play her own tournament and take the limelight.
It's just akin to people who, when their wives, their girlfriends win Olympic, that's when they want to propose when she's on the podium trying to take the truth. Then you take the shine off the
Yeah, you can't even, they won't even let you. You want to propose where? By when she's on the podium. Pass security, let's see you. This girl came down. She was like, no, people don't know how to celebrate. Let me show you. She came down. It was by the net that she did all this drama. Where he's supposed to be taking. No.
For Italian, because they are the ones who are very.
No, they don't. The Italians, they behave themselves. This girl is an attention seeker. So apparently she dated other popular ones. She was always attention grabbing. She had been waiting for Tommy Paul to just make her proud.
My mic is
I'm using my Agbero voice now. That's why you can hear me loud and clear. Agbero, oh yeah, enter, wale. 10 naira.
I should bring this here then. Maybe it might help.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
Put it in front of you.
Let's use this one.
Wale. Can you hear him now?
It's still the locker room on Smooth 98.1 FM, Mass, Tega, and Zibby. So let's go on to the messages this morning. A WhatsApp platform, Larry from the abroad tells us here, Lando is all he can say. You had just one more job after the beautiful lap in quarter 3. Execute a perfect start, and that denied him victory. Good to see Spain and hunger, and the second is no longer enough for him. Regardless, it was an exciting race. No safety car, overtakes everywhere you look, and look who's back on the podium. Sir Lewis himself, with Mercedes starting to look like the old self, while Ferrari is less said about them at the moment.
Let me even talk about this Lewis Hamilton. So, over the weekend, somebody had sent an email claiming that, Mercedes were intentionally sabotaging Lewis Hamilton's car. Okay, so Wolf now got angry. They've involved the police to find out the IP address and all of that. But ever since they sent that innocent email, Lewis Hamilton's car has somehow been performing optimally. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that 1 + 1 is equal to 2. I'm just saying that on the weekend that somebody claimed that they were intentionally sabotaging his car, he somehow found his way to the podium and he had a fast car. That's all I'm saying. If you join the two together and come up with it, that's your own problem.
If X equals to 1 plus B,
what is X?
To find X. Anyway, let's get on to AY from Oniru saying, I believe CAF will start getting properly organized from the upcoming AFCON and WAFCON tournaments onwards. For Southgate and England, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but it's never, ever coming home. Lastly, I like to give a special birthday shout out to the greatest footballer on planet, Lionel Messi, as he turns 37 today. And let's go. Happy birthday. And let's see messages on YouTube waiting. One is asking justice for Tega as you hear the voice, you see the face flash, and then you ask, where's she again? And then we see Lana's Ogun's message here. 10 naira for which economy? Tega, that was you were loading the moment a while ago.
That was YouTube at halftime. Yeah, that's why you should watch us on YouTube. Zibby, tell them how they can watch us on YouTube again.
It's Smooth 981. Thank you, Omas. It's Smooth 981. So just search for us, subscribe so you don't miss out, and you can post on the live stream. I told you, Tega is partial. She loves YouTube a bit too much.
And then Lana, thanks for the feedback on YouTube. So and he says it's better now. Thanks. Then it goes on. Abiodun Obisheson says, please let's see Tega. That's what he said.
See me now. All right. So let's go to the next story.
0809 444 0981. That's the WhatsApp number. Now, stoppage time header from Niklas Füllkrug rescued a 1-1 draw for Germany against Switzerland on Sunday in Frankfurt, ensuring that the Euro hosts finished top of Group A.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. So you know that Germany had already qualified automatically for the next round because they won their first 2 matches. However, group leaders were still available to them, and Switzerland, my goodness, gave them a run for their money. I think both the German players and the coach kind of took it for granted that they could come into this game and come out with the result, just maybe because they've been performing a bit too well in their first two matches. I didn't see that urgency until Switzerland, even after Switzerland scored, when they struggled for the rest of the first half to try and put the ball in the back of net and they couldn't. That's when I noticed that, okay, they started taking the match a little seriously. And it was from then on out that they were able to get the result. But yes, the thing about these Euros is if you snooze, you lose. The margins are so close. And sometimes you don't, when it comes to tournament football, you don't have to play brilliantly. You just have to be effective. And Switzerland, for most part of the match yesterday, were very effective against Germany. And you know, once you're one goal down and you're looking for an equalizer, you can leave yourself exposed and vulnerable. There were other moments that Switzerland looked like they could capitalize on and even extend their lead a little bit and make the job a little harder for the Germans. So I'm trying to defend at the same time, pushing for a goal can make even a good team somehow look inadequate. But fortunately for them, they have a striker in Fulkrug, and he came on and gave them the goal that they needed to secure top of the table. But yeah, I think a lot of teams will now be looking at that and saying, perhaps we shouldn't underrate anybody at this tournament, regardless of our performance, because Germany looked this close to losing it yesterday.
Let's go south and let's see things are not going south for England at this time. Harry Kane has thrown his support behind Gareth Southgate amid criticism coming the way of the England manager after a sluggish start to the Euro 2024.
I don't know why he keeps, every time the players, Southgate comes under this kind of criticisms, you'd see the players come out and say, we stand behind him. Who cares? If England will fire him, they'll fire him. Nothing you can do, whether you're Harry Kane, whether you're Harry Maguire, any kind of Harry that you are. Southgate, if they want to fire him, they wanted to fire him, they'd fire him. And I totally understand. And it's not just, it's the loudness. And you know about the UK football, it's the loudness of the criticisms this time. A random guy coming on social media to criticize the Three Lions is one thing. But when you see other sports personality, I mean, Cricket World Cup, the cricket players are talking about the football match. Yes, the rugby players are talking about the football match. Do you understand what it is?
Yeah.
The celebrities in Hollywood, they're talking about the football. Lewis Hamilton was posting about the team. So it's not just the people.
Lewis
So as he was in Spain preparing to get his podium finish that he did this weekend, he was still posting about the team. So you're looking at that's why I say it's not just the noise, it's the quality of the noise that's coming. So when the players start to talk like that, I think it was a rugby player. Was it a rugby player, a cricketer that said, please, what are we playing? Because I want to rant. That was his tweet. And so you look at that kind of post, the noise is now getting more quality. Ultimately, the FA is going to be looking at it and saying, should we do something about this? Because like I said, if it was any random Joe on social media just making noise, I'd be like, these people don't know what's up. But other sportsmen, notable personalities, talking about the Three Lions not playing well, the FA will begin to do something about that. So that's where they are. And I understand, one cricketer coming out to say, okay, we played poorly, but we are still top of the table, and let's see how we can support the team. There's that's going on, but also whilst you're supporting the team, sometimes you have to admit that maybe the team can do better, and this is not the man to do it with that team. Yeah.
Quality noise, you talk about it.
Quality noise is important.
It's important.
All right, now Hungarian winger Roland Szalai dedicated Sunday's 1-0 win over Scotland at Euro 2024 to Barnabas Varga, who was stretchered off and taken to hospital. This happened after a sickening collision, and this will rule him out of the rest of the tournament.
Oh, yes, definitely, because I think they said he broke his eye socket and his cheekbone. But when that collision came, and the collision came, he fell, and he wasn't moving. Like his head was moving a little bit to show you that he was still conscious, but he wasn't really moving his body. You know how they say he's a person that is quiet, that you should attend to. Yeah, because the Scottish goalkeeper was lying down, but he was making noise. Yeah, he's okay. Leave him. You know that
So on the one that
focus on the one that is a little too quiet. And so at first the attention was on the Scottish goalkeeper because he leapt up in the air to make the save. But when they noticed that the Scottish guy was lying down quietly and not really moving too much, then the attention turned to him. And of course, by the time you saw the sheets go around to cover him whilst they were treating him, you knew that it was a very, very nasty collision. So we wish him well. But yeah, I like the fact that his teammates are, well, steadily supporting him and they'll be looking at him. But as at last night, they said he was conscious, he was stable, and he was aware of what was going on around him. So we wish him a speedy recovery. Hopefully he'll be back on his 2 feet to at least watch the rest of the tournament from home. But yeah, I'm not sure he can make it back.
Happily, this would not be in vain. He took it for the team, and they're
Yeah.
still in the competition.
They're still in the competition. So good one for them, good result. I really was sad for Scotland because you know how the Scottish are. They will work hard. But almost seemed like Braveheart. Remember the movie? So you could feel passionate about it, but at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, he lost.
Well, they have to wait for a referendum to decide that one, maybe some other time when they decide to. But let's go over to Croatia's Mateo Kovacic acknowledged his team have struggled badly in the midfield at Euro 2024 thus far and was hoping to put it right in a vital clash against Italy today.
All right. So yes, that match is taking place today. There's been some big clashes in some big fixtures at the Euros, and Croatia and Italy is the latest one that's happening today. But yes, Croatia's midfield is aging. I think that's the biggest worry. It's not less skillful, it's not less talented, it's not less tactical. It's just an aging midfield. And they come up against an Italian side, which I'll be happy to face right now because the Italian side is not necessarily shining bright like a diamond. However, you know how the Italians can be. They don't have to play pretty football to knock you out of a tournament. USA 94 PTSD still affecting me. So the Italians can come in, frustrate you, get the result, not in a pretty way, and you still get the brunt of it. So yes, Croatia is really struggling. I think they really need to revitalize their midfield. But most people forget that regardless of the stars that have come out of Croatia, it's still a very small nation. You know, if we in Nigeria with our close to 200 million people, if that's the real figure that we have, we still haven't found a solid midfield for the Super Eagles. We're not talking of Croatia, that's an even smaller country. So it's replacing that midfield, you know, and I don't want to say make it look like, you know, we're just using stars and when they age, we kick them to the club, but life happens and people move on. And so at this point in time, I think the likes of Kovacic and Perisic and Luka Modric, all the chichis should just follow Rakitic and move on. That's that they need that change in the midfield and they don't have it anymore. That's where the problem is. Some people say, oh, but look at Modric just well in Real Madrid. Yes, he has young blood around him. So it's not an entirely aging setup. It's him and some young boys, and he can make those passes and the young boys run. But now he's making passes to equally well, older players. That's the best word to use, and so it makes it a struggle. But let's see how they'll set up today. It promises an interesting and tactical match because Croatia are desirous to get a victory, and Italy are desperate for a good performance. So at least for the neutrals like us, it makes it an interesting prospect.
Very entertaining game we look forward to later tonight.
All right. Spain coach Luis de la Fuentes claimed his team still have a lot of work to do if they're to follow in the footsteps of their illustrious predecessors and win this year's European Championship.
All right. So I'm glad he's just looking for the result and not the performance because it's not the same thing. And it can't be the same thing, especially with him at the helm of affairs. Tough one for Spain. They have a plethora of stars. They have magicians everywhere on the pitch, and they have magicians in different age grades. So they have the early 20s, like the Pedris, and they have the really young ones, like the 19-year-olds are still writing. No, sorry, 60-year-olds are still doing homework during the tournament. Still on the pitch, and then they have the players that have gotten along years. So if you look at the Spanish team, they have a good balance on the pitch. The problem is, like I said, the driver of the bus, which is De La Fuente. And he just has, he will tell you that he hasn't had enough time to make that team blend, but I think he doesn't even have the tactical acumen to make the team blend as well as he could. But they're not doing so poorly. And they play in Albania today. I think on paper and in real life, they should be able to get the results against Albania. I think the questions would arise when they start going further in the tournament and they start meeting even better quality teams. That's when more questions will arise about them. But today, it's Spain, Albania. If Spain doesn't win, they might as well just go.
All right, that's a fine place to begin to tidy up proceedings inside the locker room. But let's see messages on YouTube this morning. I see Uchenna Wokoye, and it says Switzerland tested the Germans yesterday. They actually have a solid team and would trouble most big teams. Interesting tournament so far. Then Lana Oguns says, if Germany had come second in the group, would England now be reluctant to win their group in order to avoid them? Wonder if critics would still want a display worthy of winning their group. That's what we
You have
said.
to know that critics are, when people say these critics, these ones were fans that were talking, and fans with, like I said, fans of great caliber and stature.
Anyway,
Timber and caliber.
well, someone once said critics are always very unkind. That's one thing they do very well. But
All right. On that note, I want to thank you for sending your messages to YouTube. I want to thank you for sending your messages to WhatsApp. I want to thank you for tuning in to Smooth 98.1 FM to listen to the locker room. And from here on out, it's goodbye.